the second chapter of St. Luke, beginning at the 15th verse. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste, and they found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in a manger. When they saw this, they made known what had been told to them about the child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen as it had been told them. After 8 days had passed, it was time to circumcise the child, and he was called Jesus, the name given by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. This is the gospel for the day. Please be seated. This past Wednesday, we had the privilege of being given a gift to go to Santa Land down in College Station. And it's really an extravaganza of lights. It's all kinds of Christmas stuff going on. But what really made it kind of exciting was that it was 3 days after Christmas. Because generally, the day after Christmas is a downer day, because we forget all about these things that we've been preparing for in the church for 4 weeks, but in terms of commercial people for at least 6 weeks, maybe 8. And then all of a sudden it dies. But here we go down to this place in College Station, and there must have been at least 10,000 cars. And the place was solidly packed, acres and acres of people. And it was kind of cheating, because it was 3 days after Christmas, and it suddenly felt like Christmas hadn't ended. That was the most fascinating thing about it. Was you're cheating this losing Christmas day. And you went back that night and then, oh, Christmas is still alive and glowing. And so you go into Walmart and Target the next day expecting to see Christmas still there. And all of a sudden the reality is there. Christmas is gone. And there are nothing but Valentine cards and hearts and shake candy and all those things that prepare the commercial people for the next big Target date. Now it's not December 25th and the giving of gifts. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th, and the giving of gifts. Something else that the commercial people can grab hold of. The stare us at new things to enrich the economy. And then Valentine's Day will be gone, and you'll see Easter bunnies and Easter eggs and all those things for the next commercial onslaught. Whether it be commercial, whether it be secular, whether it be religious, doesn't make any difference. These are target dates. But then when they're gone, there seems to be a real downer after that, because we get excited about things. And there are some people who have said there's nothing better than a dead Christmas. Nothing more over than Christmas when it's over. All the frenzy and fuss, lights and the glitter, star and tree, they're all put away. But Christmas really isn't dead. Sometimes after Christmas we feel like those people in the Lone Ranger. Remember the Lone Ranger? He would come in and rescue this town that was fearing some terrible desperado, and he would get rid of the problem, and then he'd ride off into the distance. And they would say, "Who was that masked man?" as it was something that just had arrived at the perfect time, the perfect place, taking care of all the problems, but now is riding off in the distance. That's sometimes what it feels like after Christmas. We say, who was that babe in the manger? Wrapped in swaddling clothes. Whatever happened to him? But maybe we have to realize, like Joseph and Mary, that Christmas doesn't end in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is not where you stay. After Bethlehem, you get down to real life. You remember the story of Joseph and Mary? After the baby is born, the wise men have come to see Jesus, and they talk to Herod on the way in, and Herod tells them, well, be sure to tell me where the king is born, because I would like to go and pay homage to. But the angels warn Joseph and Mary that there is a need to take a different road in life than they have expected. The angels come to Joseph and Mary and they say, you have to leave Bethlehem. You've got to go down to Egypt, because the king has been told that a king has been born. And he thinks it's some king that is going to intrude on his kingship, and he's out to make sure that doesn't happen. So he's going to slay all the children, all the boy children under 2. Christmas didn't stay in Bethlehem. Mary and Joseph had a different road to take. There was much more that had to happen. Jesus had to be saved. He had to be protected. He had to be trained. He had to go to rabbinic school. He had to go out and preach. He had to go out and make disciples. He had to go out and sacrifice his life. There was the magic of the birth, and then there was getting back to real life. And there's Christmas, and there's getting back to real life, because after Christmas, we looked at the world and it didn't seem to change that much. War was still going on in Ukraine. There were still tons of people at the border waiting to find refuge. There are still homeless people looking for food and shelter. And there are still 3 pandemics that are threatening us. Whatever happened to the babe in Bethlehem? Now we're getting back to real life. But getting back to real life has some good things. Getting back to real life is really what life is all about. Not just dwelling in celebrations or special days, but in taking each day that it comes and living the life Christ told us to live. So what can we get from what happened after Christmas in Bethlehem? There's one interesting thing, and that's the emphasis on Joseph. We don't hear much about Joseph. We have all kinds of things about Mary, but Joseph kind of falls off into the background. But there was something very, very important about Joseph, because he had to continue on and provide for a family, provide for a son, and live life that God had told him to live. There's one characteristic about Joseph that was there before the birth, and it continued after the birth, when life got back to reality. And that was his willingness to do what God had told him to do. He was one who had complete faith in God's directive for his life. And this became ever more prominent after the birth. Joseph didn't have a clue what was happening. He found the woman that that he was engaged to was pregnant. He was embarrassed. And the angel came and said, Joseph, don't worry about it. This is God working in a very special way. Joseph believed him. And after the birth, the angels come to Joseph and say, you got to get out of here. Your son is in danger. You got to go to Egypt. He didn't have a jet plane to get on. He had to get on a donkey with his group of people and make it a long way. But he believed. And the trust was absolute. And then when he got down there, the angel came again and said, Joseph, you got to take the child back to where you came from, because that's where his witness is going to be most pronounced. And Joseph said, okay, and went back. Ray Pritchard is a very, very prolific author, Christian author, a lot of religious books. And he tells about going and traveling south from Alabama with his brother. And they went to the ruins of an antebellum plantation just to see what it was like. It was roped off or chained off, whatever it was. They crawled through it. They examined the place, and they went to the cemetery. And Ray Pritchard said they looked at the gravestones, and the gravestones, were like just so many gravestones. Darling son, loving father, beloved mother, rest in peace in Jesus' arms. But they came to the tombstone of the person who owned the plantation. And it had only 5 words on that stone, but they said a multitude of things. It gave his name and said, man of absolute integrity. If there's one statement that can be made about Joseph's life, is that he was a man of absolute integrity. Not only when things were going good, when there was a child to come, but when there was danger and he had to risk his life to protect his son and family. How would you like that as the aftermath of Christmas on your resume? Man or woman of absolute integrity. That's real life. That's real life after Christmas. Anyway, we've already said getting back to normal was to take care of his family. Joseph did that. He did it so well. Taking always whenever they were safe. When they were going back to Israel, he said, I'm worried. The king who is now in charge was a relative of Herod's, and he's just as tyrannical. He said, all right, you go to Nazareth and raise a child there. He'd be safe out of the jurisdiction of this king. Jesse Jackson tells the story of traveling through the South to Southern Mississippi University. He said there was an odd thing. He was walking the campus with the president, and he saw there a man who was very, very tall, 6'8". And what was next to him was a co-ed, a little over 3 feet, 3 inches. It was a sight that would make you stop and look. And he saw this huge man stop in front of the classroom building, and he kneeled down and kissed the girl on the cheek and sent her off to class. And Jesse said, that's a real odd relationship. And the president said, no, they're brother and sister. He said, brother and sister. Yeah, he said, and we here are real happy about that relationship because he was recruited by almost every basketball coach in the country, and nobody would give a scholarship to his sister except Southern Mississippi. But we got him because he said he would come to the university, even though it wasn't his best interest to play for such a small, insignificant school, but because his sister got a free scholarship. And Jesse Jackson talked to the man and complimented. And he said, you know, when God makes one of the people 6'8" and the other one 3'3", the one who's 6'8" has got to take care of the little one. That's a real hidden message for us. And we might not be giants in terms of stature, but we are so privileged in terms of gifts and talents that we have and economic abilities that we have. We have to understand that we have to take care of others who are less tall in those particular divisions. And that's real life after Christmas. There's one other thing that we have to realize after Christmas, with all this peace on earth, goodwill toward men, is that we are a family of all people. Not just members of a community or members of a church or members of a town or a county, but of a universe. There's another prolific religious writer by the name of W.B. Freeman. He's known primarily for devotional books. Very interesting devotional books are made in very short stories, so they call them, it's a devotional book for bathroom readers who have some reading material in the bathroom, and he made a number of devotional books for that. But he tells one really haunting story that really reflects upon Christmas. He said a friend of his was walking home in one of the major cities in a fairly dark street. And he was walking near some bushes and he heard some noise there. It sounded kind of odd to him. And he stopped in his tracks and listened. And then there was signs of a struggle, grunting, tearing of fabric, and some moaning crying. He said, uh-oh, there's somebody being attacked here, and he could hear that it was a woman's voice. And then he said, I had to stop and wonder, should I get involved in this? And my initial reaction was to go and find a quiet place and call 911, get the police out here and let them take care of it. And then I said, well, I don't know if they'll get here fast enough. And he listened closer, and the groans were getting less and less potent. And he figured that the woman was losing ground. And then he decided, I'm going to have to take care of this myself, even though it might cost me my life. He went to attack the intruder. And it was a struggle. He wasn't a brave man, and he wasn't physically gifted. But I guess the adrenaline was enough to make the person that was doing the assault afraid, and he ran him off. Said the woman was hiding down behind a tree and just sobbing. And he tried to calm her from a distance. It was too dark to realize or see who she was or how old or anything. And he said, again, not to scare her, from a distance, he said, you're safe. You can come out now. It's okay. You're taken care of. It's safe. And then he heard the words, Daddy, is that you? And he said, the horror struck me that I could have passed this by because I thought it was somebody else's child. And one thing I recognized from this is that when there is trouble, everyone is your child or your parent, your brother or sister. That's real life after Christmas. Recognizing that you are part of a world that God came to bring peace and goodwill to. Christmas has come and gone. Valentine's probably will tell some of the same story. But when the significant holiday evaporates and goes away, we get back to life, we need to understand the message that special day told us about integrity, about family, and about being a part of the family of man. Amen. Sermon hymn, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, 282. Came upon a midnight clear.